Hi, in other videos I've talked about how useful it is to find or discover the label of victim. So it kind of makes sense of the relationships and the patterns of the past when you've been in victim mode and an abuser, and you've found, quite by magic, not abusive people, and that's because of the patterns of the past, and this kind of relationship that goes on is magnetic. You subconsciously attract an abuser will attract a victim, and a victim will be attracted towards an abusive person. Quite by some dark magic. Except it's a lot more than magic, and we know what it is. It's all the patterns of the past, the subconscious filtering, and look at other videos for that. But in terms of the label and discovering that, that's mind-blowingly useful, because it opens up a new world. It opens up the realization of what's been going on for you, and it makes sense, and you can kind of put the jigsaw together of why your life has turned out how it's turned out, and the relationships that you've had. However, then comes a point where you need to recalibrate your brain, reprogram it, so that you change the old habits and the old negative thinking. And part of that is like I said, I think most victims are stupendously giving and kind and loving, too much. That's why stupendously, almost stupidly. And that's a pattern that needs to change, because usually there's always with a victim there's a low self-esteem, so you need to get the self-esteem up to a more healthy level, and that means changing your subconscious thinking. And of course, how do you change your subconscious thinking? Because you're not conscious of it. So it's about, and again I can help with that, but it's the negative, changing the low level negative thoughts that you're not good enough, all those sorts of things, and interestingly not proving a point. I think it's interesting with religions about forgiveness. It's a very powerful thing, to forgive somebody, particularly big things. It's very, very powerful, because you're letting go of the resentment and the meaning, almost, of that you associate with it and with that person. But you don't have to be religious to forgive. It's a very, very powerful tool. Once you understand the mechanics of what's gone on, with victim and victim and abuser, then you can go one of two ways, and I see many people struggling to go the path of being positive on top of all that resentment, and saying it's not fair how everything's turned out the way it was, is, and especially if the abuser goes on to have a different relationship where they seem to be, because it's always on the surface, superficial, always seems to be lovely, and they seem to have everything, and you're left in pieces perhaps, that it seems very unfair. You can be very resentful, very negative. That's the biggest trap to fall into, because that you'll just perpetuate your own victim mentality, and you'll become more of a victim, and in fact your victim ethos will spread around you, and you'll just get more and more and more of the same, which is not what you want. So a colleague said to me years ago, which I found very poignant, that I was getting into a bit of a loggerhead in a work situation, and she said, what's going on here? And I kind of rambled on my ramble, and then she said, are you just trying to prove a point? I went, yes. And she said, well, no, never try and prove a point, because what you're doing when you're proving a point is making the other person wrong. And I go, well, they are, but then you're making yourself right. And on that point, it was like, oh, no, I'm not right, because I had that perhaps victim mentality. But so if you're proving a point, you're trying to make somebody wrong, and you're making yourself right. And there's no point in doing that, if you see my point. Better just to be more balanced, be more open, and forgiveness can come into that in a huge degree. You can hold on to a lot of negativity by proving points, or you can just forgive, let go, deal with your rubbish, your whatever it is, your trash, and move on. Make it balanced and resolved within yourself, so you're not this victim, so you're not aggressive or negative towards the unfair situation of abusers, and you're not trying to prove a point. If you see my point. It's a really there's all sorts of things, and like I say, religion seems to cover those points nicely. But you don't, as I say, you don't have to be religious to do that. It's about how you're holding things in your mind and in your heart. If you're holding on to an unfairness, a situation that isn't right, I guarantee that you'll be the one that's suffering from it, not the other person. And what's the point in that? So free yourself from these negative thoughts, these negative cycles, because you'll just be more and more and more and more and more of a victim. And what's the point in that? If you see my point, and I think you are now. So there's lots of work you can do around that. This is all a life's work, But better to be going in that direction now, rather than sitting, spiralling, going down, becoming more of a victim, because you'll wear people out. But you'll be priming yourself all that time to find, the next abuser, an even bigger one, an even better one, and somebody that can squash you even better, and suck the life out of you, be a vampire, and because kind of that's how abusers work, and that's how victims work. So you can choose to stay as a victim, or you can forgive yourself, move on, be more positive, be aware slowly as those subconscious patterns and negative thinking, how rubbish it is. Anyway, continue with the good work. Continue to send me emails and your comments and your stories, fabulous stories I keep getting. Thank you, and thank you. Give me your comments on the usefulness and appropriateness of the videos. Thank you. Bye bye.